Hey, what's up? This is Eric, and we're out in the garage today, and we're looking at um, a few cuttings that I've started. I wasn't going to do much this year, um, if anything. Mostly I was just going to start stuff off of my own trees, but these these were all started actually in the late summer. I brought cuttings back with me from some wild trees that I found in California. So these are all seedlings, bona fide seedlings. I found them in a ditch, several different trees, um, in a stretch probably about the size of a football field. Um, like I said, grown out of a ditch, basically. But started them late summer because I brought them back with me from California. They were fresh cuttings. They weren't gonna, you know, they weren't gonna hold over the winter until the spring. But unfortunately, they didn't do much before our winter set in, and so I had to start, or I had to continue them rather, here in the garage. So I've had them on heat mats, and this is this is what it looks like after several months now, being protected, and they get water with the secret recipe for controlling fungus gnats. It's nothing fancy. It's a bought item. It's called Gnatrol, Gnatrol, and you can get it on Figbit is where I get mine. You mix a couple teaspoons into a gallon of water, and that's what you use every time you water. This is the secret to my success with cuttings, and I've rooted well over 400 different cuttings to this point, probably more than that. And when I started using Gnatrol, every time I water, my success rate went from sub 60% to probably 85-90% success. You're always going to have some cuttings that just don't work, and I'll show you one that looks like that here in a minute. But these are all doing really good, and they're getting to a point now. I do have some grow lights on them. They're getting to a point now where I can probably take a lot of these off of the heat and just kind of store them somewhere else here in the garage, and they'll be all right. I'll let them kind of go dormant if they need to, and that way they harden up a little bit before I pull them out for spring. I don't want them in here the entire time if I can help it. I do want them to harden up a little bit before I have to transition them outside here in probably another couple of months. I'm looking at maybe April sometime. I'm starting to transition stuff outside. So anyway, these are the cuttings that I just recently started, and I don't want to spend too awful long doing this, but you can see kind of how dry the surface is. These are getting to a point now where they probably ought to be watered, but I don't water on the top. I only bottom water, and I just have found that it's a better way to go about it. It's a little bit more controlled for me. So I stick probably about an inch or so of water down here on the bottom of the bin, and that's all they get. They don't need more than that, and it just kind of soaks up. I've tried everything rooting wise. I've tried everything from fig pops to stratified, different layers of things. I've tried diatomaceous earth. I've tried pretty much everything that's out there. And this is my preferred method. This is by no means saying that this is the absolute surefire way, you know, the end all be all of going about this. Figs make us look like master gardeners. They root easily and that's one of the reasons they have been propagated for so many thousands of years. So by no means is this the only way to do this, but this is what I prefer to do, and it's through trial and error. This is what Harvey at figaholics.com does. This is what my friend Chris does. This is what my friend Pete does, and several other successful growers. I use tree pots. These are made about 35 minutes from me down in Tangent, Oregon. And the mix that I use is, it's called Sunshine Mix. And it's basically HP Pro Mix, just not the HP name. You can buy it. Again, I'm here in the Willamette Valley. You can buy it at Ace Hardware. You can buy it at Wilco. So anybody growing in Oregon, seek out those stores and look for Sunshine Mix number 4. That's the stuff I use. Okay, if you want to do it this way. I do add a little bit of extra perlite to it, so I do like a 3-to-1 ratio. So 3 parts Sunshine Mix, 1 part perlite. You can mess with that ratio a little bit if you want to. You'll have just as much success probably with 100% Sunshine Mix, but I wanted a little bit more aeration, a little bit more airflow in the mix. It doesn't have to be watered all the time. These were started probably about 3 weeks ago, so they're due for their first watering. Okay, and you can see, 3 weeks in, I've got quite a bit of green growth on some of them, and that's cool. But here's the one mistake that I kept making as a new grower. I kept wanting to see the roots. And believe me, I get that it's tempting. I get that it's kind of a power trip a little bit to see that the things that you're putting in soil are doing what they're supposed to do, right? However, you don't need to see the roots. And I even got so bad sometimes I would like dump out a pot and look to see if there were roots developing in the pot after I dumped it out. Like, seriously, it was that bad. Which is idiocy, right? Leave them alone. Don't mess with them. Just let them do their thing. If you have one that, for whatever reason, decides it's not going to work, it's not going to work. It wasn't meant to be. You're not going to be 100% successful. These are natural products, natural, materials. They're not going to have the same amount of vigor in every section of every cutting of every branch that you get. Those chemicals and hormones and enzymes and whatnot that allow for rooting to happen may be unequally distributed throughout a branch on a single tree. So you may have some that die back. I wrap all the tops of mine in parafilm. Again, some people don't. Some people find they don't need it. I found what works for me and I stick to it. I also don't use Clonex, the liquid purple gel cloning solution. I'm using the white powder. I forget the name of it. But it's white rooting hormone powder stuff. And I put that on the bottom of my cuttings and stick them in medium and walk away. and that's pretty much all I do. If the cutting is calloused, I'll scrape the edges a little bit, but not much. You know, like I said, I stick them and forget them. And it does help that they're out here in the garage, because right now I'm not really even thinking about them, unless I come out here to work on my pottery wheel. So one thing I will caution my West Coast growers about is when you get cuttings, if you're not getting them from the West Coast or from west of the Rockies, you need to pay attention, because sometimes you'll get stuff that it comes in and it looks really great, but it may have frozen in transit. And I think that's what happened here with this one. If you look, it's got some nastiness growing underneath the parafilm. You can't really see it very well, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do, right? In here, if you look down around the base of that cutting, and even the color of the cutting is kind of red, around the base of that cutting, there's mold growing. So unfortunately, that cutting is dead. And which is, honestly, it's fine, because that was going to be a backup for one of my in-ground trees. This is a cutting from a different source. It's the same variety, but a different source. I think it honestly got stuck in transit, coming in. And this one, I got two of them from the same person, and they have both done this. So that's usually a telltale sign that it was dead on arrival. Okay. Now, look at that versus something like this Gnatrol. This is a cutting off of my own tree that I didn't wrap in parafilm, and you can see the desiccation here at the top, but it stops right here at this node, and it's more than likely going to be fine. And if it isn't, big deal, right? I've got the tree, and there's plenty of wood on it. So the freshness of the cuttings really is what matters the most, in my experience with them. You know, people get caught up in thickness and node count. I've rooted successfully several 2-node cuttings that were no more than 3 or 4 inches long, and didn't have any problem with them. Stuff like this little tiny thin cutting, there's no problem with that. It'll root just fine. And this is a different one from a friend of mine, so it's got wax on the end, but wax or parafilm doesn't really matter. They both work. The freshness, like I was saying, the freshness of the cuttings is really what matters most. So some of these, you know, like this one here, this was a fresh cutting that I took off the day I did all of these. These two were fresh cuttings I took off a couple of my trees that very day, and you can see how much more developed they are, how much more vigor they have. That's not coincidental. And these are small cuttings. I mean, this is a small cutting. It's not very long either, and it's thin. So the thickness of the cutting really doesn't matter too much. Let's see. There's one other piece of info. How far down do you stick the cuttings in these tree pots? So I don't stick them more than halfway down. These are the 9-inch tall tree pots. So you figure about that far is all the further I want to go on them. I don't want them too far down in the bottom, because there's going to be perched water down here that's going to stay a lot more moist than what the stuff up top is. And the sweet spot is right here in the middle, you know, this area right here. you want your cutting resting there. If you have, a layer or two of like perlite or diatomaceous earth or whatever else down here on the bottom that's a bigger caliper size grain, a lot of times that stuff will draw moisture up and your perched water level will get higher. And so you run the risk of failing a lot of cuttings if your perched water level is higher than what it should be. Okay. So if you're on bottom heat, then it's less of an issue. This isn't my preferred method actually of doing this. I actually prefer putting them outside in the springtime and letting them go about things naturally and making sure they have proper drainage. These bins here like this, obviously these don't drain off unless I drill holes in them. But I much prefer letting cuttings get rainwater and get to soak up the sun as much as possible in our spring. So this over here, this is the last bit I'm going to talk about. These are cuttings that I just started because I had a vole get into my greenhouse and destroy, 5 trees maybe. So I've got several cuttings from what was left of those trees. They were completely girdled and chewed off. All the roots were chewed off of them. So basically it was just cuttings left in a bucket of dirt. And so it really frustrating situation. But it's an opportunity. I think I'm probably going to end up with several extra trees out of it. The reason that I wanted to highlight this is because it's not overly warm in my garage. It's maybe 50 degrees in here. But as long as you've got bottom heat, and this is just a regular heating pad from, I think, Amazon. It wasn't that expensive. And it's just on the lowest setting. And it's on constantly. This will do just fine. These won't have any issue rooting whatsoever. And some of them are a little bit green because they were in the greenhouse. And that's why these were in the greenhouse. My Martinica Blanca was not fully lignified, so it wasn't outside. I was protecting it over the winter. So it's just a really terrible situation, but you try to make the most of it. So if you're one of those people that want to check to make sure that your stuff is digging in and you're not seeing green growth, if you see green growth at all, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Don't touch it. Don't do anything. But if you're curious, like sometimes I just come in and I give just a very, very slight, gentle pull on the cutting. If it feels like it's not wanting to move, that means it's doing its job. Or in the case of this one back here, this moldy one, it feels like it is dug in and rooted. But I know that it's probably just, yeah, that's what it looks like. So really unfortunate, and we're gonna get this out of here because that's bad news for other cuttings, potentially. But all of that is mold. And, it's too bad. But you know what? You chalk this one up to the cutting gods and walk away and not think about it. And sometimes that's hard when you're starting out, right? But all the rest of these are just fine. You can go through and touch them and And if they feel like they're situated, so this one is a little loose, so it's not rooted yet, and this one may be too far gone, which is always possible. Looking at the color of the wood, it's a little on that red side, so that generally doesn't bode well. But you know, this one, it's got resistance to it, so that's what you want to look for. But I don't suggest doing that. I think that's probably a bad move. Generally speaking, if you just let them be, they're going to be fine. So, all right, well, I'm going to get back to work out here. I've got some pottery I got to do. So, all right, take care. 20 minutes on this video, which is insane. Have a good one. See you around. See you in the spring.